What's up guys, Kyle here again, and today is New Year's Eve. So that means it's the last FAQ'n Friday of 2020. So I just want to thank you guys real quick for being here, subscribing to my channel and checking these out, dropping your questions, everything else. Got a big year planned for 2021. We'll see where it takes us, but so far this has been really fun. So let's get to your questions. All right, first question comes from my dude David Ross. He says, we've talked a little bit about cab IRs and DM, but I'd like to hear an overview of your guitar recording setup in general. My guitar recording setup is really pretty simple. I honestly don't do a lot of recording. I've done a lot more recording since I started this YouTube channel than I've ever really done. I kind of got heavy into recording last year, trying to figure it out. But I realized it's just super time consuming, and that's just the tracking portion of it. As far as like mixing, mastering, all that stuff, man, I just didn't have the motivation to keep up with it and get super knowledgeable about everything. So really for guitar tones and stuff like that, I prefer just throwing a single SM57 straight on a vintage 30 right on the dust cap and the cone, the edge where everything meets. That's pretty much how I've done every single one of my YouTube videos so far. It's just been a V30 loaded cab with an SM57 right on in that position. And honestly, it's worked out well so far. I listen back to the tones before I post them, and they all sound good to me. I don't edit anything. So my guitar recording is quite simple. Actually, I lied. A few of the videos that I did at my practice spot for like the Randall RD45 and the Stealth and everything, a Sennheiser E609 mic that I put on one of the other V30s, and I actually think that combination worked out really well. I blended them where the 609 was a little bit lower, but that mic isn't as spiky sounding. It's a little bit rounder, so it kind of rounded out the SM57 and calmed it down a little bit tonally. But really, the SM57 straight on has been the easiest to set up. It's been working great for me, so I'm gonna stick with doing that until I really figure out something that I feel shows tones more accurately than they are being shown with just the SM57. But a lot of people are familiar with that mic, and it seems to work out great for these demos and just trying to give you guys a real world sound. So I'll explore more mic stuff in the future. I just got a Lewitt MTP 440, which is a dynamic mic, which a lot of people have been giving really good reviews on. I got it for not only guitars, but for snare drums. I watched a couple videos of it on snare drums, and it seems to work really well for those too. So I'm gonna give it a shot, see how it goes. But yeah, single SM57 right on a V30 where the dust cone meets the cap has been pretty much how I've mic'd all of my tones up to this point. Seems to work okay. So Brent Percy, that could go wrong really quick. Brent asks, what camera and lens are you using? For my main shots, I am using a Sony a6000 and a Sigma 16mm 1.4 lens. I don't really know that much about cameras. Basically, I did a little research on what the best camera under $500 used was, and the Sony a6000 popped up a lot. And my cousin also directed me to the Sigma lenses for the Sony E-mount cameras and told me how good they were. So I kind of did some research, checked out some YouTube videos and some footage, and I was just blown away at how good they look. So I'm like, all right, I mean, that's cheap enough. I can find these cameras for, you know, 350 bucks, something like that, used with the kit lens, and then just swap out with a couple good Sigma lenses and be good to go. So primarily what I use is the a6000 with a Sigma 16mm for my main shot. I bought another Sony a6000 and I got a Sigma 30mm lens for that camera, and that's what I use for the side shots of me playing guitar. I bought a Nikon D3200 locally for like 140 bucks, something ridiculous. And that's the one that I've been using to place on the amp, so you guys can see when I'm messing settings and stuff like that. Still kind of dialing that one in. The video quality isn't anywhere near as good as the a6000 and stuff, but it works for what I need it to do. I just got a new lens for it that seems to be much sharper and not be prone to low light issues. So I'm thinking that'll probably make those shots look a lot better too. And then I also have a Sony a5000 that I bought for like next to nothing. And I just got another 30mm Sigma lens in yesterday. So most of my videos moving forward will probably use a combination of all those cameras, and I'll edit it all down to 24 frames per second. Somebody on here did mention that they've seen some like goofy editing stuff and stuff like that. And yeah, man, I am learning all this stuff on the fly. I really haven't been going back and looking at stuff once I'm done editing it, which is, you know, obviously 100% my own fault. It's a little, I would say it's laziness, but really it's just finding the time to put all this stuff together, especially with the more cameras that I add. I feel like it ups the quality significantly, but it also makes it harder for me to catch little things. But I'm thinking that over time, I'll get better at that as I get better with the editing software. I switched from OpenShot to Shotcut recently because OpenShot was just shitting the bed on me every time I tried to export anything with the video from these cameras. It just didn't like the codec at all. It was freezing, and I did a Bushido Code rig rundown video that I tried to export literally like 20 times. I still haven't been able to get it to export. So I'm gonna go back into Shotcut. I'm gonna re-edit everything, and I'll post that up here within the next like week or two. But anyways, yeah, I'm learning all this stuff on the fly. I had no knowledge of cameras or video editing whatsoever up until about a month ago when I started putting all this stuff together. So I like to think I'm moving fairly quickly in the right direction, but I still have a long ways to go. So yeah, if you guys have any tips for me, feel free to leave them in the comments and let me know what I can do better, because you know, constructive criticism is actually super helpful in these situations. So the last question that I have for today, we're gonna keep this one short. I'm sure a lot of people are busy with the holidays and everything, so I didn't get a lot of questions, and that's totally fine. Comes from OWTG Dom. What do you think of the Peavey XXX? I like my Maxon boosted JMP 2203 and my 6505 Plus way more. There's something about the XXX mids that I don't mesh with. I feel like I mentioned it a couple times on here before, but the XXX is actually one of my all-time favorite amps, period. It's the easiest of the Ultra amps to dial in for me. And I feel like it has the most balanced EQ, whereas like the Ultra Plus and the Ultra 60 and 120, those can get wonky really fast. I feel like they balance the EQ dials out, even though they're still active on the XXX. They balance them out more. They make it easier to dial in than the previous entries without getting too quacky or too harsh. But yeah, I love that amp. I boost it. I run it on the loose setting. I run the master volume up high and the channel volume a little lower to get it a little brighter. And then that way I can turn the highs down and kind of fatten it up with the active EQ on both the Crunch and Ultra channels. I also stick a 5751 in the V1 spot on those amps to kind of tame the extreme amounts of gain that come with those things. They're just like over the top, you know, not quite as gainy or fizzy, I guess. It's like a 6505 or a 5150, but they definitely have a lot of gain. I tend to run it at about what would be 9 o'clock, even with the 5751 and a boost out front, depending on the guitar, pickups, cabs, everything else. But they can get over the top in the gain department really easy. But yeah, you do those little tricks and you figure out how to tame it, you figure out how to make it work for you. And I think I can take that amp and use it for any of my bands and make it work perfectly. I'll always love that amp. I'll do a video on it here shortly because I haven't featured it yet. But yeah, I mean, it's not for everybody. Not, you know, most amps aren't. And if you don't like it, that's fine, man. I mean, if you tried everything you could to make it work for you and you still don't like it, it is what it is. Everybody has different tastes. I don't like most Mesa rectifiers I come in contact with, which is hilarious because I have so many videos on, you know, shooting the rectifier out with the Badlander, and I'll be putting one up of the Rev E just by itself that I did recently. But I've never really been able to make the rectifiers do what I want them to do, even though I love the way that they sound when other people play them. So the XXX just probably isn't for you, and that's okay. If you've got amps that you love and you like them better, you're gonna gravitate towards playing them anyways, and you're gonna enjoy playing them more, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's just your taste, and that's what makes everybody's tone different, you know? That's what makes channels like these possible, because we have so many options and not everything works for everybody, and you know, people like me just get to buy every amp that they come in contact with, and then I can make demos for you guys and hopefully, you know, they're helpful. Anyways, yeah, thanks again, guys. It's New Year's Eve. I'm gonna get some Chinese food tonight. I'm gonna chill. Tomorrow, I think I'm gonna shoot a video on all of my amps that I have and kind of document where I am gear-wise right now, and then post that up for you guys to see, and we can see how things change along the way. Maybe I'll do one every 6 months or maybe just once a year and see how much stuff has changed, but kind of let you in on the stuff that I have, and you guys can give me ideas on what types of videos and comparisons and stuff like that you'd like to see. It's not just a vanity show. I like amps. I like having a lot of amps, and I like talking to people about amps. So I do kind of like showing them, letting that be a conversation starter. It's definitely not a bragging thing. It's like, hey, I like amps. Do you like amps? Let's talk about this one. Let's talk about that one. Because that's what this is all about anyways. So yeah, anyways, I'll post that up sometime tomorrow. And yeah, thanks for tuning in, guys. We'll see you next year.